Hello, this is Lisa Russick and Misty Lore with the podcast We're All Psychic. And today we have a really cool guest, and she is named Mary, and she is right here. Hello, Mary. Would you like to say hello?
Hi, everyone.
And they said hi back. I know they did in their hearts and souls. And Misty, would you like to ask Mary a question?
I sure would. Mary, do you think that we're all psychic?
Absolutely. I think that we all are born open to some degree, and it's kind of whether or not we want to pursue it. I personally was born very open. So what that meant for me was that I could look at someone and honestly hear their thoughts. And that's just a common thing I always hear everybody say. And I'm like, oh, you have no idea what you're asking. That like it's so
Do you
much.
hear them like word for word, or do you just kind of know the gist of the main things they're thinking about?
I would know at least the gist when I was
Okay.
little,
Wow.
and then that would be enough, that I immediately knew who I needed to stay away from or who I was safe with, who I just needed to watch, whatever the case may be. And then the older I got, being a little kid, you don't as an adult, I can look back and see, the things that we think that we never say.
Yeah.
As a little kid, you really don't know that.
Dumb filter. Yeah.
Yeah, you hear it and then you're like, "Wow, what's really," that they're scary. And in fact, they're just having a bad day or somebody, rubs them the wrong way.
Yeah.
And the older I got, the more I kinda learned that, but I ended up having to go to, like, a private school. And there were some really great kids that I went to school with, and there were some that, of course, weren't so great. And the ones that weren't so great, I could hear their thoughts or when they were coming to me for something, and they
Something
wanted
else?
yeah,
Yeah.
right, and, "Oh, Mary, how are you?" Blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what you want. You're trying to get something out of me, and that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Uh, that kinda stuff. There happened to be an adult that was in this institution, and every time I saw them, this I would get a trigger in my head saying, "Keep your eye on that person." And they would always stare back at me like, "Why is that creepy child watching me?" And 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 I got that a lot. And so, I'm used to it.
Listening.
But yeah, exactly. And so I would do that, and I would like, every time they came around, and they were around quite a bit, um, it wasn't until years later that I learned that they were, in fact, harming children,
Mm,
and I'm like, "Okay, that makes sense now." As a little child, were they gonna show me that? Nope.
Yeah.
right.
My guides are gonna protect me to some degree, from that knowledge, but they did tell me enough. Keep your eye on this person. This
Right.
person
Yeah.
is not a safe person. And so it was just an interesting circle of events that's how it played out.
That is, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I definitely think that we all have it to some degree. It just some of us are born more open than others. And I think a lot of us do it on the fly. We
Yes.
we ask our guides for help. We ask for things, we get our guidance, at the least opportune time. Well,
Good
we'll make
point. Yeah, we do. Say, "Hey, I know you're about
Yeah.
to have a car wreck, but"
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Well, I'll get my
I'm making
neighbor out
dinner, I'm
there.
fighting the
Yeah.
dog off, I'm doing all these other things, and, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
by the way, this didn't work out because of." "Oh, well, yeah, okay, great, thanks." I'll get back to that later. You know?
Yeah.
So that to me is really yeah, I think just people they don't catch that sometimes the voice, that inner dialogue that they have is their guides.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
Don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are
So,
times when I'm doing readings and I hear that, and I'll hear it in my own voice or I'll hear it in a different voice, and I it's and I forget that fact that sometimes it's just that inner dialogue is them coming through, and
yeah, it is.
yeah, and I think that's something
Yep.
people expect this big grand picture when
Right.
Yeah.
they're talking about it, and they think what we experience, and they don't realize sometimes our experiences are basic level stuff. Sometimes it's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
a voice in
That's
our
how
head.
I
Or a
do.
gut
I
feeling.
Yeah, a
never.
gut
Yeah.
feeling. Yeah, maybe a flash of a picture. I may not get exactly what they're talking about, but they'll show me a picture of something that happened, in my relationships or in my life. And I'll be
Yes.
like, "Okay, I know what this situation's about now." You
Right.
Yes.
know, I know what
Exactly.
I know where we're going with this. I can take this somewhere.
I have so many
Yeah. It's just
questions.
like a voice in
Go
your
right ahead.
head. Like you said,
Yeah.
like your own voice. You know?
I mean, I have
Wow.
so yeah, I have so many questions. Like, at first, like, I'm wondering when you were younger and you were hearing thoughts, most telepaths don't know it. They're telepaths or telepathic. They don't know they're telepath from my experience. Now, did you know that you were different, or did you think everybody was like you, like hearing thoughts and understanding what people were thinking about? Or when did you find out that most people weren't doing that?
Um, I think I always kinda knew it.
Yeah.
It was just because, people's reactions would be different than mine. Um, I've always been a people watcher, so
Yeah.
watching others and, them not reacting or seeing a teacher and them not responding, after I hear something, it'd be like, okay,
They're
they're
not
not.
hearing you back kind of
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
you
that was
tested
always.
it.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
There's something like about having a really intelligent mind that to be able at that age to discern from testing it like that. I mean, that's really
Mhm.
interesting to me. Um, and I'm really curious about like when you realized the guides were coming through for you. Did you always just know they were guides? Like you said, open. Like, did you know what they were, or did you think everybody had them, or did you realize that was also something that maybe people weren't working with?
To me, it felt like instinct.
Yeah.
It was just so second nature to me. I didn't think about the source of it.
Right.
And once, I did actually, confide in my mom, "Okay, I hear this, you know, w where is this coming from? What is
Yeah.
it about?" And, the mom response of, "You ignore it, it'll go away." Was her
Yeah.
response.
My
Yeah.
mom would just say, "It's your imagination."
Yeah, yeah, my
She's
mom
right,
was, "You
yeah.
ignore it, it'll go
Part of it will.
away." And then
Yeah.
and the older I got, the more I realized she ignored it, so it went away. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's how it worked for her, and it did for me, like, once I was at that private school, after a while, I did suppress it because it kind of became a survival instinct. I couldn't function, um
I had the same problem with the empathy. I didn't have the
yeah,
knowing the thoughts that much, but the empathy was
Yeah,
so
me too.
overwhelming. Yeah,
mhm,
it was like I went boom at like 22 and didn't get out of bed for a year and a half, or
oh, yeah,
23 or something. I was just like, "I
oh,
can't
yeah,
take it."
yeah,
Yeah. It took
it's
that long.
overwhelming,
Took a
yeah.
while. Yeah.
And then when I was in my early 20s, I worked for an agency that we worked with substance abuse, and a lot of the staff were into spirituality and were psychics to some degree or
That's
mediums to
cool.
some degree. So we all actually it became a comforting, environment for me to start
Yeah, I bet.
opening
Oh,
up a bit.
yeah. That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so, one of the counselors in particular really worked with me on opening back up, and it was really nice and really reassuring, and it was a safe environment to do so.
That is
Wow.
that's just the
I wish
best,
we
and,
all had that.
like when you finally got to meet just through the podcast, and before that, I'd started to meet a few people who read tarot or something like that, and then more people who are more in depth into other subjects of energy work. And it feels so good. And through the podcast, I've met a lot more people I can talk to about this stuff because there aren't many people. How did you feel when you first were able to be yourself basically about that, you know?
Um, relieved,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, just very it was very comforting and very, um I had I did not realize that how incomplete I was feeling until that moment,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
once I did, I was just like, "Okay," and then I started, doing the glow ups, and everything was expanding for me,
Yeah.
and then, you kinda learn to weather those storms as they come across, but, um, yeah, it was really I felt whole again.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm starting to feel like so much more I mean, knowing that there's other people who go through the stuff on a daily, the ups and
Mhm.
downs of it. It's just life. But for us, or working with our energy all the time, pretty much we are, once for
Right.
me it is once I started, I can kind of like shift out of it or shift into it, turn it off, turn it on, kind of, but not very well. I don't, it's like into my work, other work, and, into other things I do for money and into my friendships and into my relationships, it goes into like everything pretty much after a while of doing it. I'm sure I mean, but it's very interesting. We very rarely have people on the podcast who will say, I was reading minds and I remember it." They remember some of them will come and say, "I think I had it going on when I was a kid, but they told me not to," and et cetera, et cetera. Or they had parents who developed it with them. Their parents were already
Right.
into stuff. But it's very rare to have someone like what you can remember about your early childhood and this experience. We've
Mhm.
never had anyone really talk about that early of an experience. I don't remember anybody talking in like with that much specifics to it. So,
Yeah.
I think that's just really amazing. You must have a great memory, you
Yeah,
know?
I
Yes, she
actually
does.
love that, yeah.
Yeah, so you must have, like, story I mean, I'm curious, this is something that we've talked about in podcasts just because you have such a good memory. Do you remember your readings? Because a lot of us don't, and some of us do. It's, like, weird. You do?
Yeah. Yep,
You remember?
usually I can hear something and trigger,
Okay.
you know, and then it's like, it'll play back in my head, and it's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
where we left off. This is what's going on now. This is how it changed." And
Yeah.
one thing, it's kinda nice to be able to remember my readings and then to, move forward
Yeah.
with the next reading is sometimes they'll clue me in that, okay, free will took over here. This is, somebody turned left when they were supposed to turn right, and hey, man, it was out of our hands. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we can kinda go from there. Okay, that's where we were at this point. This has changed. Now where are we?
Right. Right.
And I really like to me, it's important to really empower the people that I read for.
Me too.
I really want them to feel like they're in control. So many people come to us and they feel like they have no say. They feel like they have no control, that
No
somebody's
options. Yeah.
act yeah, and I really want them to feel that, no, you have choices, you have options. You impact the situation. It's not just
Yeah.
someone making a choice and you having to live with it.
No, it's not, and it's a really hard place to get to for a lot of people, that
Right,
they have a say, that they are important, no matter what someone told them or they believed about themselves, and it's hard to get them to realize they even believe it about themselves. A lot of times it's years and years before they realize that, that they think that way about themselves, that they aren't
Mhm.
important. Sometimes it does take
mhm,
years for them to realize it. Sometimes, it takes just a couple sessions and they,
yep,
they start working on the things they're learning instead of just still focusing on after the reading, focusing on the predictions,
right,
instead of the self work we do in the session, and usually that's what they come back, so I think they are thinking about that. It just takes them longer to
right,
really break out because some of these people have been horribly talked to or abused or just treated like they're worthless, all their lives. And they're not. They're finding that out through people who do readings for them or people who come into their lives who really love them. And there's not a lot of people who do because they don't expect them to. They know the kind of love that is damaged and will damage them. That's all they've known for love because, a lot of the people I read for, they've just had really hard upbringings and,
Right.
dating really young and having, older men and, just stuff like that. It's just getting really, told in the process, you have no say. Like you said,
Mhm.
and he will go out with you, so go out with him, that kind of thing,
Right.
she will go,
Right.
do this for mom or whatever, even the men get it. So, um, it's just some parents that, just want to think I personally think some parents want to like live vicariously through their children, not all of them. But a
Right.
lot of them and they also some parents I've seen think the kids reflect on them somehow, like what society will think of them. That's
Well,
kinda
yeah,
getting faded out though, I mean,
Right. I think
that's
that
how it
that
was in
we're
the
we're
beginning.
I think we're getting to the point where that's but I still come across and I'm hesitant to read for younger ages, but usually it depends on their maturity level and where they're at with things and their spirituality and where their parents' support is with it. But I've had some where they really just take to that growth and, okay, so I can do this.
Yeah.
I it's not um, because my parents did it this way does not mean I have to do it this way.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. And I think that's important so they're not living in a shadow.
Right, exactly, and to realize I think that's one of the best realizations anyone can have is to realize how much free will we really do have. How much say you all 3 of us really do have in our lives around, the people who care about us and how we say it, and, we can say the things we're told not to, basically,
Exactly.
and, we gotta live with it. They don't, you know?
Yes.
Right? Um, so, I'd love to hear so listeners, Mary was gonna tell us about a technique she uses, and I'm very curious about it, so she's gonna teach it to us.
Okay. I do with very specifically with my guides a to-do list. And that really stems from, like I said, I would ask them questions on the fly, how am I supposed to make this happen? Or why did this play out the way it did? And I'll be thinking that as I'm driving down the street or as I'm getting a pop, you know,
Yeah.
and when my focus isn't completely there. And I would get responses, but I would get responses in the same fashion when I wasn't completely focused.
So you didn't grab it and hold on, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'd missed the train altogether. So, what I learned to do and I would sit down very specifically with literally, you can buy them at the grocery store, the to-do lists.
Yeah.
Um, and I would start it out, "Dear guides, thank you for all that you've done for me, and I appreciate what you do for me and the things that I don't know you're doing for me, but I need some help," you know? And then I'll list 2 or 3 things. "Can you help me understand such and such?" Or "Can you give me clarity? Can you make something happen for me?" Um, and I don't I don't ever venture more than 2 or 3 things because it's tough for me then to catch those responses.
Right.
And
yeah.
then I'll say, "If you could do this in the next week for me, answer these questions in the next week for me, I would appreciate it. Thank you for all you do, Mary." So I write him a little letter, with the to-do list. And I've never had a to-do list that did not get completely answered. And I've been
Oh.
doing it for a few years now. And it will be, and I think a lot of it is just stopping and take for some people, they do meditation. For me, that doesn't work so much. Can't shut off the brain.
Yeah.
But I can but I can sit down and write. and do that and take that 5-10 minutes to sit there and say, okay, can you help me with these 3 things right now? And mindfully, I will get responses back that are for those 3 things.
Because you put the intention out there or ask them mindfully,
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
I love that.
Interesting. I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna
I'm
try
gonna
it.
do that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it.
I am
yeah, I
too.
recommend it to a lot of my clients, and a lot of them do it now.
That is really awesome. I'm gonna do that when we end the podcast, I think, as it's
Yeah, me
compiling.
too. Yeah.
Misty, I know you have some questions.
Well, yeah, of course I have questions, but the question I want to ask you is, so you said that you started to really, mature more in your growth when you started working, with these other people that were, on the same level as you were. So what made you decide to start working with using your gift to help other people? Where were you at in your life, and what made you decide to do that?
My work, like, now I read full time. Prior to then, I worked in human services for about a decade. So I worked in domestic violence shelters and in substance
Oh
abuse.
wow.
So I
Wow.
did human services. My job was always to help people. And kind of, I think it was kind of, um, they play off each other, you know,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
empath, that empath in me was drawn to that line of work.
yeah. I
And
can see that.
And then, once I kind of found that niche in that specific agency, it really helped me grow. And then it really helped me communicate with my clients and understand them more. It helped me it helped me when I was trying to work with them in the most difficult times, because it was a 28-day stay at the substance abuse treatment center. And in 28 days, you're tackling a lot of information. You're tackling past traumas. You're tackling developing new coping skills, how to live in an environment with 20 other women. And they're all in various forms of detoxing and growth. And, you know,
Wow.
so, I mean, you have so much going on
Yeah.
that it helped me tap into a person. Okay, so at times, I would see someone and they're acting n- at a younger age group maybe than what they really were. Well,
Yeah.
that would help me understand, okay, at this age group something happened to them. Okay, what happened to them, guys? Tell me what happened. What am I dealing with right now? Okay, they were abused at this point. Dad left at this point. Whatever the case may have been. And then I could say, "Okay, they're feeling abandoned. How did I trigger that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I stepped on it this way. I gotta go back and clarify that's not what I meant."
Right.
I bet you helped so many people. Oh, that sounds like amazing for an empath. That's like the perfect job for them.
Yeah, I
Really.
loved it.
In
Yeah.
I
control of
really did.
everybody. Yeah. I mean, that would be like a dream job for me, because I'm a highly empath as well, and I'm a highly empath person as well, and just to help people is what I love to do too, and it sounds like you love to do the same thing. So I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, I'd probably still be working there, but you decided to just get out of that one and just start working, individually and helping people,
Right.
on your own.
Through
And so
readings
now
in particular or
Um, I got burned out. That that line of work, the average person lasts about 2 years,
I bet.
um,
yeah, yeah.
before they reach burnout. I was lucky. I think my gifts and things kind of helped play that
Oh God,
out.
Yeah.
yes.
But
Seeing that stuff all
Your
day long
sanity.
every day would be hard for a
yeah,
lot of people. I couldn't do it, you know?
yeah.
Misty, you guys,
And
I know Misty could, and I'm obviously you can. You've
Yeah.
proven you can.
Well,
I mean,
I
that's
could maybe do it for a few years, but I don't know. Like when she just said that, I had to think about it for a minute. Could you really every day for, what, 5 days a week for 10 years? I don't have the answer to that. I don't know.
yeah,
yeah.
And then now, and then I did office work for a while, and that was actually more stressful because, um, again, you get that empathic stuff, and if you share an office with a bunch of people, you're picking stuff up.
Mhm.
You don't know who it just shot out of,
Mhm.
but it's yours now.
Yep.
They
You
feel
gotta keep
better.
it
Yeah,
different. Yeah.
they feel great. You, on the other hand, are a mess. Um,
Right.
I had a
Right.
boss who he would have bad meeting, and he would come down there, and it took me a while to see the correlation, because there was 4 or 5 of us in the office. He would just come in after a meeting to, decompress, and all of a sudden, I would get short fused, and I would
Yeah.
just be so stressed out, and I would be like, "Oh my god, how why just, mm,"
Mhm.
with everybody and everything, and then he would leave the office, and I would go back to being normal.
You had a big presence.
Yes, and I was just like, "Oh, it's him." And I'm like, "Okay." So, yeah,
So you
I've
put it
learned.
on a list?
Yeah, he does himself. But yeah, I do a lot with, like, cleansings and spiritual cleansings and things of that nature, and if I'm going, if I'm gonna go with somebody that I know is just knee deep in it right now for whatever they may be going through in their life, then, I'll do a cleansing before I go, and I'll do a cleansing when I'm done, and just really make sure that I keep my protection up so that
Yeah.
I can empathize without actually carrying it for
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
because that is part of their growth,
Yeah.
and that's really a hard thing for an empath, I think, to understand and to
Yeah.
get at times.
True.
It is. It's very difficult. And I
We're
think that
tempted to take it.
you've learned.
Yeah.
You've learned so much from every job that you've done to be able to get to where you are now. I
It
can
also
only
sounds
imagine.
like to me, it also sounds like maybe there was a bit of a, like, questioning, like, if you wanted to follow a more spiritual aspect of it for a long time, it kinda sounds like. And
Mhm.
you're, like, in a practical, very practical way helping people and spiritually, but not with that title, so to speak, or with that
Right.
that focus, I should say. And
Mhm.
and now you're doing it with a spiritual focus, it sounds like, which is what you were it's almost like you were training for that side of it all along, it sounds like.
Right.
Right.
So, was
Yeah.
there yeah, like, was there a point when you decided to go with the more spiritual aspect of
I think
healing
when I
people?
when I left the office environment and I focused on readings full time is just kind of that moment where, um, I kinda just opened up to my guides and said, "Okay, you guys are running the show now." And it's funny because they really dictate to me, "This is how this reading's gonna go, and this is," talk to them about this, and, or started off asking them, where are they spiritually?
Yeah,
Do they believe in God? Are they, polytheistic? What are they looking at?
right.
Um, because, you're gonna need to know this as we go. Okay, so
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's really
yeah,
good.
Did you keep
so
your notes? Did you keep your notes or do you throw them away?
Your
I
to-do
don't keep
list?
notes. Oh,
You don't
Okay.
keep
my
them?
to-do list? I keep them.
Yeah. You do keep them?
Yep,
Awesome.
Okay. I was just
yep,
wondering if you looked back on them and kept them or just threw them away.
nope, I keep them.
I would too. That's pretty I'd write something down about how it happened, like my inside leave room, I
Yeah,
guess. I think so that's what I'll do. I'll leave
yeah,
room to
I
write what happens.
usually spaced out, and I'll usually put, just jot a little something down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you
I
have
love
any advice? I have a question. Do you have any advice for people who might, well, first of all, where can listeners find you? Um,
They can find me on Facebook.
please.
My what I read under is Dreaming Orchids Oracle Readings,
Okay.
and then or on the web, dreamingorchids.com.
Okay, and you're also an Everclear advisor, right?
Yes, under Teresa G.
Teresa G. Okay.
Yep.
I'll put all that information in the podcast description. And so you can find her because you need to, so she can read your mind. I do actually have
it.
I was gonna ask for advice about anyone who's listening to this who has that skill, like so defined for them that they know what it is, they know it, and maybe they're struggling with it in some way about it. Like not fitting in, not having that feeling yet of connection, like you did when you first started working and found other people who spiritual like that and had those kinds of skills. Any advice for them? Maybe like waiting for those kinds of people to come into their life, or should they go find them? Or
Um, I have always I have a I have been blessed that the right teacher has been there at the right time. So, sometimes it may be something as simple as this, listening to a podcast and thinking, "Oh, you know what? These people get me." And hearing the different topics every podcast and reaching out and learning that way. I always strongly suggest people avoid gatekeeping, which would be somebody who tells you you can't be a reader and be a Christian, or you can't be a reader
yeah, you can't do
and
this and that. Yeah,
no, you can be
you
whatever
can.
silly
I don't
boldness
like that
that you
either.
want
I
to.
hate it.
Yeah, it drives me crazy.
Me too.
Um, but yes, absolutely. If you don't have people around you that feel comfortable with, reading books are great,
Good
great
advice.
resource.
Yes.
Um, Listening to different people, getting just different perspectives. I think now the technology we have with us, um, we have so much more access to things than we had, when back when I was in my 20s, and which was a
Right.
lot
There's no
longer ago than I
excuse.
want to
Yeah.
admit.
There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
excuse. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely.
And on that
Years
note,
ago,
I'd
we
like
had
to
to rely on people, but now we can kinda do it on our own.
We can.
Oh, thank you, Misty. I do want to say thank you, Misty, and thank you, Mary, for coming today. And I'd like to also thank our sponsor, Everclear. And Everclear is an advice app where you can get advice from psychics and empaths, so you can get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve.
I
And
absolutely love it.
yes, we love Everclear. So, and lastly, of course, love to thank the listeners. And this is an audio podcast, so we can't thank the watchers unless they were watching us through remote viewing right now at this moment, or they're going back in the past, or maybe like a few weeks ago they went into the future and watched this podcast while we were doing it. I imagine
Mhm.
that's the only way they could be watching it.
Yes. I like that last one. Yeah.
That's
Never
why I
know.
think I'm sure there's other ways they can get into my computer and watch the file. Throwing it out there. It's real
Uh-huh.
exciting. I mean, this
Yeah.
video is just totally exciting. You're missing the whole show. Okay, I'm done. Thank you, listeners. We love you.
Love
Goodbye.
you. Bye.
Bye.